Putin does not look at economic impacts of sanctions, and he is not calculating the economic price the Russian economy and Russia is paying for this war. This war is not a rational war, meaning that he calculates costs and benefits and trying to get the better results. This is a war of his ideas. He believes that there is an existential war, that the West wants to destroy Russia, and that's why he's in his words, and I believe in his real mind, he is looking for the fight with the West for the survival. And when you fight for the survival, you don't count costs and damage to your economy.
Now, Western sanctions have hit Russian banks, wealthy individuals and technology imports. But after a year of far-reaching restrictions aimed at degrading Moscow's war chest, economic life for ordinary Russians doesn't look that different than it did before the invasion of Ukraine. There's no mass unemployment, no plunging currency, no lines in front of failing banks. And the assortment in the supermarket may have changed a bit, but international brands are either available or local substitutes have taken their place. So what is going on? Let's talk to Sergey Aleksashenko. He's a leading economist and a former deputy finance minister under President Boris Yeltsin. He's also a former first deputy chairman of the Central Bank of Russia. Good evening to you, Sergey.
Carol, good evening. Very nice to be with you today.
Really good to speak to you. What sort of effect do you think the Western sanctions are having on the everyday life and economy of Russians?
As usually economists say, the glass is half full or half empty. And that's why it's up to our listeners to decide what's going on. On the one hand, at the beginning of 2022, the predictions for the growth of the Russian economy were close to 4.5%. The final result was minus 2.1% and inflated by military expenditures. So in any event, 6.5% of decline in economic dynamics when the external environment was very comfortable for Russia, in short was the effect of sanctions. All in all, Russian citizens, Russian households, they purchased goods 7% less, 2% less of foodstuff, and something like 9.5% of non-food stuff. So that's another indication how life of ordinary Russians has changed.
But it doesn't sound as though the sanctions are then really imposing much economic pain on the country.
Carol, that's true, and that is the glass is half full. Because the main pillar of the Russian economy is oil production and oil export. And in 2022, oil price, even taking into account all discounts for Russian companies, was higher than in 2021. And revenues for the budget from production and export of oil increased by 25%.
And so, although Europe and Britain and America have got these strict sanctions, it seems as though Russia, helped by those oil wealth, has simply found other customers, other nations to trade with.
Yes, correct. But being honest, neither UK nor US nor European Union wanted to remove Russian oil from international markets, because Russia is the major supplier of oil and refined products to the global market, about 17% of overall supply. And if you remove Russian oil from the market, the price for oil will increase, I don't know, twice or maybe triple, and the global economy will be in recession. And definitely nobody is ready for this. So the idea was not to reduce the amount of physical oil that Russia supplied to the market, but to reduce the revenues of the Russian industry and of the Russian budget. So that happened to a certain extent, but not a lot, because European sanctions and the price cap for Russian oil was imposed only in December. And we see that the revenues of the budget in November, December, January, and February from oil declined significantly. So real sanctions were imposed too late, and they were not too harsh. And that's why there is effect of sanctions, but not as great as many anticipated.
Do you think that the West could impose further sanctions that would really hurt the Russian economy? Or given the way that President Putin controls the economy, the oil wealth that you've talked about, is the country always going to find a way, really, of getting round them?
First of all, Russian business is very inventive and tries to get big profits out of the bad situation. So if Western companies do not supply something to Russia directly, Russian companies, Russian businessmen, they are looking for other ways to import necessary goods via Turkey, via Arab Emirates, via China, via Kazakhstan, via any other country. So, and seems they are able to do it. Second, I do not believe that the West, if we take the idea that the West is not looking to reduce supply of Russian oil, has any other options to do. So I think that the best strategy for the West today is try to control the sanctions that were imposed and to fight with evasion, to erosion of sanctions. What I said, import of goods to Russia via other countries.
And when we look at President Putin, his conduct of the war, and his apparent determination to continue to pursue this conflict despite, the terrible human cost, let alone the economic one, it doesn't sound as though the economic sanctions are having much effect on him or those around him.
Carol, you're absolutely right. And in my mind, Putin does not look at economic impacts of sanctions, and he is not calculating the economic price the Russian economy and Russia is paying for this war. This war is not a rational war, meaning that he calculates costs and benefits and trying to get the better results. This is a war of his ideas. He believes that there is existential war, that the West wants to destroy Russia, and that's why he's in his words, and I believe in his real mind, he is looking for the fight with the West for the survival. And when you fight for the survival, you don't count costs and damage to your economy.
Sergey Aleksashenko, a leading economist and a former deputy finance minister. Really good to speak to you this evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Carol. Very nice to be with you once again.